In this video, I want to share with you two interesting websites that I found that's going to help you learn HTML and CSS in more depth, and it's going to expand your knowledge. So the first one is actually called htmlcheatsheet.com/CSS. So this is basically a cheat sheet of different properties HTML has, but even more importantly, if you scroll down over here, it has a few features. So one thing is called some background positioning. So if you actually just play around with certain elements over here, you click around and you play around with these certain options that you have, it's going to give you a preview of how the images are going to show. And the best part is, and the part that I want to actually show you is on the bottom over here, it will actually show you the code that makes this particular preview possible. So the background feature is very interesting. There's another one called box shadow. So if you want to actually create a box shadow, you can play around with this certain options, and you will see over here that this particular CSS makes this particular preview possible. Another good one is gradient. So color gradients over here. And you will notice that there's a lot of CSS over here. And that's the good part, that you actually study what is happening when you select certain options. If you do not understand what's happening over here, you go to the Mozilla documentation and study, what does this particular value mean? What does this particular value mean? What does this particular value mean? And so forth. And you study the documentation, meaning that code doesn't have to be magic, doesn't have to be overwhelming. If I look at this code, I will also not understand this because I don't know what Moz linear gradient is. I don't know what 45 degree is. I don't know what this particular color means. Of course, I know that's a color, but I don't know what the third parameter means or the fourth parameter means. So you're not going to know that. So that's why a documentation is something that you read. You're never going to learn everything. You're never going to continue watching videos, but incrementally learn certain things. So one last thing I really like over here is actually the text shadow. So if you play around with these certain options, you will see the shadow that it has, and it has a few different examples over here like such. So if you want this particular option, or this particular kind of effect or a flaming effect, that's pretty cool. So you can play around with this particular website. Another very helpful website that I want to share with you is called Codepen.com. Codepen is a website where a lot of front-end developers and front-end designers share their experimental projects, right? So you can see their code and see the results. So a few examples, although there are many advanced options, or sorry, advanced examples over here, I want to share with you some simple ones. So if you click on any of these particular options, you will see a page like this. So this is the preview, and you will see HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, you know that HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the three cornerstones that make the web possible, the websites and all the interactive websites that you study or you see. But so far, we have not studied JavaScript. JavaScript is a very in-depth topic that we are covering in a different course. But since you know HTML and CSS, what you should do is any project that you like, you click over here and make sure there's no JavaScript, because you won't be able to understand it at this point. You study what's in the HTML, you study what's in the CSS to make this thing possible. You can even come over here and try to change certain numbers. So I'm going to just make this 125, and you see the shape changed. So you play around with it and you learn. Another more practical example is this button effect. So you come over here and you actually just play around with these effects, and you see, oh, this is just possible with some CSS. I can just study that. So go and study it. Another option is a button effect that I found, and this is also done simply with HTML. If I scroll down, this is HTML over here. There's some CSS over here, and there should be no JavaScript, because the thing is that you do not know JavaScript so far. So you should not be looking into projects that has JavaScript, because you're not going to understand it at this point. It's going to be very confusing, or actually not confusing. You're just not going to get it because you don't have the basics. Now, one other thing that I want to share with you is that just like CodePen is very popular in the world of web designers and web developers, there are other replica websites like CodePen. One is called JS Fiddle, another one is called JS Bin. There are some other ones out there as well, but CodePen really stands out because people actually publish their projects over there. over with JSBin and JSFiddle, people just have these repositories where they only have code for mostly JavaScript purposes. That's why they're called JSBin and JSFiddle. However, they work exactly the same like CodePen. So that's pretty much it for this video. Play around with these resources. It's going to really help you explore and expand your knowledge. Talk to you in the next video.